right, let's try this again.
All I do is play it. I'm American, so I played it. I used to sing it in school. They made me sing it in school, so it's a flashback. I don't know about it.
This man was in the 101st Airborne, so when you write your nasty letters in...
Nasty letters? Wow,
right.
you really
when you mention the national anthem and talk about playing it in any unorthodox way, you immediately get a guaranteed percentage of hate mail from people who say, how dare
anyone... Unorthodox. That's not unorthodox.
It isn't unorthodox?
No. I thought it was beautiful. But then there you go.
All right. And he was right. Still is right. It was beautiful. It still is beautiful. So, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everybody's having a great morning. It's a sunshiny morning, but it's a brisk morning from what I see. 27 degrees this morning when we got up. Only going to get to be about 40. So let's just jump into it here, get going. As you can see, I've got a little bright sun behind me. Hopefully that won't be too bad. So as always, thanks for joining the show. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new today. If you're watching it after the fact, please subscribe. Please like the videos. Helps get them up in the search engines. People get to see them. And if you really want people to see them, share the videos so that other people can enjoy or at least get informed, which is really the point of the show, is entertainment and information. So with that, our headlines today, we're going to talk a little bit again about the nomination papers and what happened to the Bill of Rights, what happened to the Constitution, Biden's shadow government. One disturbing issue for us is social tracing. Hell no. And then a COVID-19 update. And then just a little conversation about Facebook taking down demonstration pages and posts, which will be appropriate after we talk a little bit about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So let's just jump into it again this morning. Again, I'm Michael OPELA, and I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives, Congressional District 7. And as a result of failure by the Wisconsin Elections Commission to provide a more fair opportunity to get nomination papers during this time, we've really got to work from our homes to ask people to sign our papers. And so with that, again, I'm asking all of you who would be interested in helping me get on the ballot, which is all this is really about at this point, so that I can run from June 1st through to August for the primary and beat Tom Tiffany and represent you in Congress. If you go to our website, it's www.trailblazer19.com. You can download on our nomination page the nomination papers, and this would be a sample of the nomination papers. And what you do is you fill in your name here, your signature, fill in your information, and if you have other people in your household that could sign, please have them sign, and then you'd fill out the bottom as the person collecting the signatures. And we have all that information in another sheet here that is instructions, and then there's also a sample page to help you understand what it looks like when it gets filled out. So I would recommend downloading all of that, and then also downloading the congressional map. You can open it up when you go to download it. It just opens up in your browser. It's interactive, so you can scroll in and out and just make sure you're in the district. But District 7 is one of the biggest districts in the country. And basically, as you can see, it encompasses the whole upper part of the state. So a large area, geographical area to cover, and not really any way right now to cover it because non-essential travel is not allowed, and gatherings are not allowed. All of these things we're going to talk about today that are not allowed are impacting our election process this year. So I really need your help, and would ask that you consider strongly just filling out my papers. Now, the one thing to remember is if you sign for Tom Tiffany, you can't sign for me. If you sign for me, you can't sign for Tom Tiffany. But there's lots of us in the district, so there are a lot of signatures available that if you don't sign for one or the other person probably can track somebody else down. But in my case, I could really use your support, and I'm asking for your support. All right, and with that, all of the disclaimers, I'm Michael OPELA, and I approve this message. And then, of course, I got to get up this disclaimer, and it's got to be up for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we're in compliance. Like to be in compliance. Also, I am sending to our legislature here in the state of Wisconsin a proposed bill, have been for the last several weeks, related to doing something to help people who are impacted by this closure of the state, in particular people who have been laid off or lost their job. I mean, there are people that have been fired. And the bill tries to address unemployment and increasing unemployment on a state level, so that in combination with what the state would do and the federal government, most people would be receiving what they were making when they were laid off while they wait to try to find a job. So that would be one part of it. Secondary part of it would be to put everybody who is on unemployment or laid off or fired, even if they don't qualify for unemployment, put them on Badger Care to make sure they have insurance and make sure we don't tax our healthcare system even more, taking care of people who don't have insurance coverage, because we know before we had the Healthcare Spending Act that people were going to the hospitals, people were going to clinics who needed desperate help but had no way to pay for it. And that ended up being paid for by you and I if we had our own insurance or had our own ability to pay. All that impacts what our cost for our services are. So it only serves to help the health care industry by making sure everyone is covered by health insurance. On that topic, I guess you'd have to ask yourself, where's everybody about this issue? The legislature is not talking about it, and in particular, Tom Tiffany's not said a word. What happened to the Bill of Rights? It's interesting. There's an interview with Tucker Carlson I'm going to share with you that basically shares with the country, with the governor of New Jersey, that basically the governors don't care about the Bill of Rights at this point. And the decisions they're making are really not about the Bill of Rights, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. So with that, I want to share that with you, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
To Michael's iPad and Dad's pad.
New Jersey. As of today, New Jersey has more than 71,000 cases.
All right.
Well, after the state of New York, no state in the country has been hit harder by this virus than the state of New Jersey. As of today, New Jersey has more than 71,000 cases of it. More than 3,100 people have died so far. Since the 21st of March, all residents in the state have been under a stay-at-home order, and that's had a big, predictable economic effect. In the past month, 577,000 New Jerseyans have filed for unemployment. Phil Murphy is the governor of New Jersey. He says that for now the shutdown will continue. He joins us tonight. Governor, we really appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you very much. I know you've got a lot to deal with. And I want to say at the outset that I mean this sincerely, I always presume good faith in the decisions that our leaders are making right now, because I know it's complex, especially for you, the most dense state in the country, second highest death toll. But there's a couple things that I find confusing, and I'd love to hear them explained. The first is the rationale for the lockdown. Now, you said early on the point was, and most governors said this, was to flatten the curve, to spread out the infection so our healthcare system didn't collapse. It didn't collapse. It came close, but it didn't. Now, today in your press conference, you gave a different rationale for the lockdown, and you said that you can't foresee normal gatherings continuing, I think it's a quote, until essentially there are no more cases. Why the change?
Again, it's good to be on with you. We believe completely that we don't get an economic recovery unless we've got a complete or near complete healthcare recovery. So flattening that curve reduces the amount of hospitalizations, reduces the amount of intensive care beds, ventilators, healthcare workers needed, et cetera. And so you want to get the line to cross between that and your capacity. If we had let this go, we think 3+ million New Jerseyans would have been infected. The number, thank God, is going to be a lot less than that, Tucker, but we're still not out of the woods yet. My comments today were directed at things like high school graduations, religious gatherings that folks had asked me about for June. And I can't say with confidence. I think April, the next couple of weeks, is going to be our toughest period. May, I hope, please God, assuming folks stay home, will be a little bit better. I can't predict with certainty into the summer. So my rationale is the same. I just got to make sure that I'm being straight with people about the timing and, frankly, what we don't know yet.
But the standard that we're not going to have these large gatherings, including, as you said, religious services or NFL games, which you have in your state, until we're basically at zero new infections, that's not a standard that we apply to any other infectious diseases, including diseases that kill, as many people as this is projected to kill. So why the different standard in this case?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a different standard, and maybe it's the way I said it today, but here is the reality. You get that economic recovery, that responsible reopening after you've cracked the back of this. I don't think any of us can expect that we can get this to zero, particularly in the absence of a vaccine, and it sounds like that's a year and a half away. But I do think, and I did say this today, and we believe this strongly, that we need a much broader testing regime. And that will give us confidence if we can quickly test folks. Rutgers University, our state university, by the way, started this week with this saliva test, which they think could be scaled up dramatically. That would give us an enormous amount of confidence to be able to say, you know what, we could get back on our feet again, and we can highlight where there might be a burgeoning hotspot, have contact tracing in place, and keep a lid on this, and at the same time, let us get back on our feet.
That'll be hugely important, I think, for every state. Once you get large randomized tests in the state of New Jersey, what do you expect the death rate will turn out to be from this disease?
Boy, I don't know, Tucker. Based on everything we've seen, it is meaningfully higher than the year in and year out influenza. Of course, influenza, there are vaccines for that. I get a flu shot every year, and please God, we have a shot soon for this as well. I don't have a specific answer other than it appears to be higher. And part of the reason is we know the folks who have passed, and there have been far too many in our state, over 3,000 blessed souls, as you said. The denominator is the tough thing to get our arms around right now, and that's in the absence of the universal testing that we desperately need.
That's right. So you just compared it to the annual influenza. So there is a vaccine typically for that. The new IHME numbers, University of Washington model that I think most of our leaders have been referring to, suggests about 60,000 deaths nationwide by August 4th. That would be fewer than what the annual influenza caused a couple of years.
Thank you to our helpers at BMO and beyond for keeping our lives moving when the world needs to stop.
Well, after the state of New York, no state in the country has been hit harder by this virus than the state of New Jersey. As of today.
Sorry about that. There's important information here I wanted to share with you. And what's, we've seen so far is they keep using the term vaccine as if there's going to be some kind of vaccine for this.
Connected to Michael's iPad and Deb's pad.
Well, that's interesting. I lost all my sound. So basically, what's happened here is the governor of New Jersey is advocating that the Bill of Rights isn't important in this process, and that he didn't really take it into consideration. So we should be very upset with that. And, I don't like to use the word afraid, but we should be afraid about that. So we should be afraid for that because we depend,
Connected to Michael's pad.
and
Connected to Dad's pad.
we depend on our government to abide by the documents that their very government was created by. So,
Dog services and
let's try again.
arrested people for
Sorry.
attempting to attend them. Did anyone say that maybe practicing your faith might be important to someone's mental health?
Listen, I think we've had a very good common ground with faith leaders of literally every faith who understand this. And by the way, whether it's a liquor store, a pharmacy, a supermarket, we expect folks to distance themselves from each other, to wear face coverings, etc. There's an enormous amount of faith going on virtually right now, a lot of practicing going on, and we care deeply about both physical health and mental health.
Of course, but I just, and I don't want to be too persistent on this, but I think it's important. On what scientific basis did you decide that sitting in a church was much more dangerous than buying liquor in a liquor store? And why is buying liquor more important for the social fabric? I'm just trying to think. You're not the only governor who's done this, and I don't mean to pick on you, but I don't understand the reasoning. I don't want to think it had anything to do with tax revenues.
No, it does not have anything to do with tax revenues. Our revenues are so blown up, that would be a rounding error, trust me. This is not either or. It can be and both. I've spoken to Cardinal Tobin, to the leaders of the Jewish community, of the Muslim community. People are at peace where we have come out there. No one's happy. Everyone wants to get back to what they think of as the norm, and who could blame them? I want to do that as well. But I don't think these are one versus the other. I think you could have both of these realities at the same time, and that's what we have in New Jersey right now.
So why, back a couple of weeks ago, you closed state parks and people have been arrested for using them. A man was arrested for sitting alone on the beach. Tell me why that poses a danger. And again, on what scientific basis did you make that decision?
Yeah, so Tucker, we were coming into both warm weather and big religious seasons. It was Passover first, then Easter. We've got Ramadan coming up shortly. And certain of the counties were beginning to close their parks. And the concern was that the folks who couldn't go to their normal park would go to another park, another county or a state park. And it wasn't just a gut feel. We then surveilled the state, up and down the state on that first weekend of April, where we had some good weather in New Jersey. And in fact, that was just what we saw. Lots of people